All right, Dungeon Masters. Ready for a deep dive? We're taking on the vaults of endless beauty today.
Yeah, this one's a doozy.
Think we can handle it.
Oh, we can handle it. Question is, can your players... This module's got it all. Cursed wilderness, deadly dungeons.
And enough lore to make your head spin.
You got that right.
So we're talking about more than just a dungeon crawl here, right?
Way more. This is a story of obsession, beauty, gone wrong, the price of power, that kind of thing.
And in the heart of it all, we've got Atziri.
Tragic figure, really. Her legacy is woven into every corner of this adventure.
Okay, so before we get too far, let's lay it out. We've got the adventure module itself, obviously. Tells us all about the quest, from exploring the wilderness to, well, surviving the vaults.
Right, and don't forget that Mirror Realms mechanic adds a whole other layer of messed up to the game.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be fun to play with. Distorted reflections, alternate dimensions. Sounds like it could really mess with players' minds. Speaking of messing with minds, the module mentions Atziri's cataclysmic reign and this whole obsession she had with mirrors.
It's more than just vanity, though. Think of it more like tools in her pursuit of power.
Tools.
Yeah, tools. Maybe even gateways, you know? The module hints at the mirrors, letting her glimpse into alternate timelines, different versions of her reign. She was obsessed with staying in power. And of course, with her looks never fading.
So it wasn't just about being beautiful. She wanted to be immortal, too.
Immortality, power, all tied into her obsession with beauty. They were all intertwined for her.
Okay, starting to get a real Snow White vibe here, but with way more blood magic, am I right?
Oh, way more blood magic.
So how do these mirrors actually work? They're not just, like, magical Instagram filters, are they?
No, not at all. It's way deeper than that. We're talking about alternate realities here. Imagine a world where Atziri actually achieved her goals. Or maybe one where her thaumaturgist, Doriani, succeeded with his twisted experiments. The possibilities, they're endless.
Doriani, there's another name we should probably unpack. His laboratory. That's a key location in this whole thing, right?
Oh, for sure. That's where things get really interesting and really disturbing.
Okay, give us the rundown. Who was Doriani?
Doriani. He was brilliant. A genius, really. But let's just say his moral compass needed a little recalibration.
The module doesn't exactly sugarcoat it.
Is it?
Gruesome experiments with life force and gems.
That about sums it up. Guy was obsessed with life and death, how to control it, how to manipulate it.
So we've got Atziri, obsessed with eternal beauty, and Doriani, messing with the very fabric of life. And our players are walking into the middle of this.
That's the general idea. But that's the beauty of it, you know? It's all about player agency.
What do you mean?
I mean, the module presents these situations, these moral dilemmas, but it never dictates how things play out. That's up to the players and their choices.
I like that. So you're saying it's up to us, the Dungeon Masters, to really bring those choices to life.
Exactly. And luckily for us, this module is practically bursting with juicy details that are just begging to be expanded upon. Like, take a look at this. Specific, intriguing details. Can't go wrong with a title like that, right?
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the first thing that jumps out at you?
Hex 007, the Mirror Crater. Imagine a massive crater filled with shards of reflective glass, each shard offering a glimpse into a different timeline.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying players could run into past or future versions of themselves?
Maybe. Or they could witness different outcomes of their decisions.
It's a lot.
It's a chance to introduce some serious psychological horror. Make them question what's real, what's just a reflection.
I'm so using that. Okay, what else? What about Doriani's laboratory? Any details there that'll make our skin crawl?
Oh, are you kidding? That place is practically bursting with creepy potential. Take a look at this. Doriani's storage vault. Unstable orbs. Hidden vials of something called Zerfi's elixir. It's practically got a neon sign flashing risk versus reward.
Okay, Zerfi's elixir. Sounds ominous. What is it?
Think of it like temporary immortality.
Sign me up.
Hold on. There's a catch. There's always a catch with Doriani.
There's always a catch. All right, lay it on me. What's the price tag on this immortality?
Your sanity.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect example of the themes this module plays with.
Yeah.
The allure of power, right? The cost of forbidden knowledge.
The fine line between genius and madness.
Exactly. And it's a fantastic moral dilemma for the players. Risk your sanity for a shot at immortality.
What could go wrong?
Oh, just a little descent into madness. Maybe a side of existential terror. Who knows? But hey, at least you'll live forever.
Yeah. I think I'd rather take my chances with mortality. So we've got risk versus reward, moral dilemmas, anything else lurking in Doriani's laboratory.
Oh, there's more. Room 8, Doriani's final experiment. The module hints that your players might encounter a spectral echo of Doriani himself.
Okay, now that's just creepy.
Right. Imagine it, facing off against a being imbued with all of Doriani's twisted genius. A specter still driven by his relentless pursuit of, well, everything.
That's not a boss fight, that's a psychological horror film waiting to happen.
Pretty much.
And I love it. But let's not forget about the main attraction here. The vaults of endless beauty. What kind of horrors await us inside those shimmering walls?
Now we're talking. Think cursed gems, deadly traps fueled by blood magic, and its series' most loyal undead guardians, all standing between your players and, well, whatever it is they're looking for.
That's delightful.
It's a death trap, wrapped in a treasure chest and sprinkled with a generous helping of existential dread.
Sounds like my kind of place. But you mentioned something about a blood fountain. What's that all about?
Yes. The blood fountain chamber. It's exactly what it sounds like. A fountain of blood, but with a dark twist. Drink from it, and you might gain forbidden knowledge.
There's that phrase again. Forbidden knowledge. I'm sensing a theme here.
But knowledge comes at a price. Drink deep, and you might just find yourself face to face with a horrifying encounter. Or worse.
Or worse. You're killing me with the suspense here. What's worse than a horrifying encounter in a blood-filled chamber?
Oh, let's just say Etsiri had a very creative understanding of suffering. She believed that true beauty could only be achieved through great sacrifice. And she wasn't afraid to share that philosophy with anyone who crossed her path.
Yeah.
Even in death.
This is quickly becoming less of a dungeon crawl and more like a descent into a nightmare. But for those players who love to crank the nope factor up to 11, there's always the nightmare portal in the Temple of Etzoatl, right?
Yes. The Nightmare Portal. A one-way ticket to Aziri's personal hellscape.
Sounds like a great place to end a session on a cliffhanger.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the best part, you can tailor it to your players' worst fears.
Oh, I'm definitely taking notes. This is pure gold.
What are dungeon masters for, if not to exploit our players' deepest fears in the pursuit of a good story?
So before we get lost in that series' nightmares, let's talk about how we, as dungeon masters, can use these themes of obsession, sacrifice, power. How do we weave those into a narrative that will really resonate with our players?
That's the real art of running a module like this one. We're not just presenting a series of encounters and loot drops. We're crafting a story.
And not just any story, a story that'll stick with them long after the game is over.
Exactly. We want them to feel the weight of their choices, the consequences of their actions.
We want them to be haunted by the vaults of endless beauty.
Precisely.
Haunted's a good word for it. But how do we, as dungeon masters, how do we make those choices matter? You know, the kind of choices that stick with you even after the game's over.
You got to dig into those character motivations. Why are they here? In the vaults, I mean. What are they hoping to find?
Right, like are they in it for the treasure, the glory? Or maybe they're trying to outrun something from their past.
It could be anything. But once you know what makes them tick, that's when you can hit them where it hurts.
Okay, so you're saying we use those motivations against them. I like it. So, let's say we've got a character, classic case, obsessed with wealth. They'd probably sell their soul for a sip of that immortality elixir, wouldn't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you play up the whole Fountain of Youth angle.
Make them think it's the answer to all their problems.
Exactly. But then you hit them with that sanity drain. Make them choose between their riches and their mind.
Brutal. I love it.
That's what this module's all about, though, right? Pushing those boundaries, challenging players to really think about the consequences of their actions.
And this module gives us so much to work with. Morally ambiguous characters, mind-bending mechanics, horrifying scenarios. It's practically begging for a creative interpretation.
Oh, 100%. Take the mirror realms, for example. We talked about alternate timelines, right? Well, what if those reflections, what if they were more than just images?
Okay, now you've got my attention. Go on.
What if they were doppelgangers? Alternate versions of the player characters, but twisted, corrupted.
So like evil twins separated at birth. Or maybe reflections of who they could become if they make the wrong choices.
Exactly. Or, here's a thought. What if those mirrors showed them their pasts? Not just happy memories either. We're talking deep, dark secrets. Regrets they thought they'd buried forever.
Oh, that's just cold.
But effective, right? Suddenly, those reflections aren't just spooky images. They're manifestations of their deepest fears and insecurities.
And I bet you could work some killer puzzles around those reflections, too. Like maybe they have to travel between dimensions to solve a riddle or retrieve a key.
Now you're thinking. Like I said, the possibilities are endless. This module, it's more like a toolbox than a script. It's up to us, the Dungeon Masters, to use those tools to craft a truly unforgettable experience.
And a terrifying one, hopefully.
Of course. Got to keep those players on their toes, right?
Absolutely. So let's get into some specifics. I'm still stuck on that Mirror Crater Hex 007. It's just begging for a truly mind-bending encounter.
Oh, I agree. That location is practically oozing with potential. Picture this. Your players, they're picking their way through this landscape of shattered glass, right? Every shard, a different reflection, different choices, different outcomes, maybe even glimpses of their greatest fears.
And then the reflections start to move.
Exactly. They reach out, whisper temptations or threats. Maybe they even try to pull the players into those reflections, trapping them in alternate realities.
Okay, see, now that's just messing with people. I love it.
And just when they think they've got a handle on things, you hit them with the doubt.
Yeah,
like, how can they be sure which reality is real anymore?
Oh, I see what you're doing. Planting those seeds of uncertainty, making them question their own sanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's not just about fighting monsters. It's about fighting their own minds.
That's brilliant. Okay, what else? What about Doriani's laboratory? We've talked about the spectral echo, but that place is practically overflowing with creepy potential.
Oh, you're telling me. Room 8, Doriani's final experiment.
Yeah.
That's where you can really go all out on the horror.
Give me the details. What are we throwing at our players in this room?
Well, first off, the atmosphere should be thick enough to cut with a knife. Dim lighting, flickering shadows, that low hum of arcane energy that just screams danger.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
And then there's the spectral Doriani himself. Not just a mindless apparition, mind you, but an echo of his brilliance and his madness.
So he could be taunting the players, tempting them with forbidden knowledge, trying to manipulate them into continuing his work.
Exactly. And let's not forget about those blood-infused machines scattered around the lab. Those aren't just set dressing. They're a gold mine for creepy encounters.
Oh, I'm listening. What did you have in mind?
Imagine the players are trying to disable a trap or maybe activate a console, and suddenly one of those machines springs to life. Tubes pulsing, gears grinding, maybe even emitting this ear-splitting shriek that just sets their teeth on edge.
And then it attacks.
Or worse, it starts changing them, mutating them. You know, a little taste of that Doriani special.
Okay, that's just wrong. I love it.
And just to really crank up the paranoia, you could have the machines react to the player's emotions. Like if they're feeling greedy or ambitious, the machines hum with a malevolent energy. But if they show fear or doubt, the machines just go deathly quiet, as if they're watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
You're a twisted genius, I swear. Okay, we've covered the Mirror Crater, Doriani's lab, but what about the vaults themselves?
Yes. The heart of the nightmare. It's Ziri's monument to beauty and despair.
Sounds charming. What's on the menu for this course of the nightmare?
Think cursed gems, shimmering with trapped souls, deadly traps fueled by blood magic. And of course, it's Ziri's most loyal guardians, standing between your players and whatever treasures or horrors await them within.
Let's talk about those guardians. What kind of creatures are we talking about here? Because I'm guessing undead doesn't even begin to cover it.
Oh, you're absolutely right. We're talking about creatures twisted by Ziri's will and infused with the power of the vaults themselves.
Like what? Give us the terrifying details.
Well, for starters, there are the blood elementals. Imagine. Creatures formed from the raw, primal essence of blood magic.
So basically walking, talking blood clots with a bad attitude.
More like sentient waves of blood with razor-sharp edges and a taste for violence.
Okay, yeah, that's way scarier than a blood clot. What else?
And then we have Ziri's apparitions.
Those sound familiar.
Well, remember all that talk about reflections and alternate realities? These are basically fragments of Ziri's fractured psyche, given form.
So not just physically threatening, but potentially capable of messing with the players' minds as well.
Exactly. These apparitions, they feed on doubt, on insecurity. They can appear as anyone or anything, whispering temptations, dredging up past traumas.
Just to break the players down.
Precisely.
Okay, that's seriously creepy.
And the best part is, they can't be killed in a traditional sense.
So how do you fight something that exists partially in another dimension and feeds off your fear?
Now that's the question.
Yeah.
And a perfect place to end this part of our deep dive.
So we're talking about something that goes beyond a traditional boss fight. This is about psychological warfare.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so effective. You can't just hack and slash your way through this. It takes cunning, strategy, and maybe a good saving throw against psychic damage.
Saving throws against psychic damage, that's my love language. Okay, let's move on from the psychological terrors to something a little more tangible. The Vol Gem horrors. They sound pretty hardcore.
Oh, they're hardcore. Imagine Vol warriors, but instead of just being reanimated corpses, they're fused with these glowing, pulsating gems.
Okay, that sounds excessive, even for Itziri.
Oh, it's peak Siri. Remember those obsessions we talked about? Beauty, gems, power. Gem horrors are all of that, twisted and corrupted into these monstrous guardians.
And from a gameplay perspective, how do they work? Are those gems just for show, or do they actually do
Well,
something?
they definitely do something. Enhanced strength, magical abilities, maybe even some kind of weird gem-powered regeneration. But here's the best part. To really take them down, you can't just hit them anywhere. You got to go for the gems.
So it's like a puzzle, but with more stabbing. I can work with that. Okay, let's talk about that nightmare portal in the Temple of Atsawal. We haven't forgotten about that.
Ah, yes. The grand finale.
Or a grand finale, depending on how sadistic you're feeling as a dungeon master. This has got to be the ultimate test, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is where you, the dungeon master, you get to unleash your darkest nightmares on the players.
Give us the pitch. What kind of horrors are we inflicting on our players when they step through that portal?
This isn't just about throwing a big, scary monster at them, though you can definitely do that too. This is about crafting a truly personal nightmare. What are their deepest fears? What regrets keep them up at night?
So you're saying we use their backstories against them. I like the way you think.
And don't forget to filter it all through its series' twisted perspective. Make it beautiful, make it cruel, make it unforgettable. We're talking about warped landscapes, creatures that defy description, maybe even twisted reflections of the players themselves, corrupted by its series' madness.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. And the best part is, this could be a whole campaign arc on its own. You could even start dropping hints early on. Nightmares, visions, whispers of madness. So when they finally reach that portal, it feels like an inevitable conclusion.
Exactly. Build that sense of dread, that feeling that they can't escape what's coming.
Yeah.
And then unleash the nightmare.
You are a twisted genius.
Right.
This has been incredible. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the vaults of endless beauty, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Remember, this module is a gift that keeps on giving nightmares. Use it wisely, use it well, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the vaults of endless beauty. Until next time, Dungeon Masters, may your dice rolls be ever in your favor, and may your players never suspect the thing until it's too late.